So hello everyone, welcome here to round number 3 of the 2018C NASA RallyCross Challenge season. We are back at the Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, Texas in this crazy infield road course. Getting ready to do battle once again. It's Josh Mertz bringing you the call as always for the Automotive Sports Network. We have a relatively short show for today, as we only have 9 cars getting ready to take part. Would actually be 10, but Chris Wett's unable to participate in car number 23, having a car issue once again in that Revolution Racing Ford. 9 cars, so a little bit down on cars. 2 heat races still, 6 laps apiece. Joker lap once, top 2 transfer. LCQ, 4 laps, Joker once, the top 2 transfer. And then the final, due to fuel constraints like we had at New Hampshire last season, we're only going to run 10 laps. Now we have to take the Joker twice. As practice, finishing up the MRT boys 1 and 2 in qualifying, Philip Kraus is going to lead us off in heat number 1. So interestingly, you might see something a little bit different that NASA RallyCross has ever done. Due to the lack of start lights, remember how crazy that start was here last season, and due to the lack of start lights, no standing starts here in Texas. This is revolutionary, depending on how you see it, in a good way or a bad way, as we get ready for the first heat race. It's going to be Philip Kraus, Jeff Applegren, Chad Simpson, Marwan Moftah, and Matt Kingsbury getting ready for this first heat race. Remember, this track runs the infield road course at the Texas Motor Speedway, but we do run the camper paths on the opposite ends of the circuit. So during this little parade lap, these guys will be able to run the actual circuit, but the track that they will run will certainly not be this layout. Looks like Kingsbury had a little bit of an issue in car number 21. He had to stop there for a moment, but it's going to be MRT and Vusion Racing, and we've seen Vusion Racing the last 2 weeks dominate with Parise, but he's not here. So Parise not here. Applegren returned after not having a very stable car last week in Phoenix. So himself and Joe Naughton holding the baton for Vusion Racing, getting ready for the first heat race here in Texas through the final chicane. Very odd to see, awkward for some, but a rolling start for NASA RallyCross for the first time in active competition. Green flag for Heat 1. Off the line, Kraus gets a good jump over Applegren into turn number 1. Remember, these guys are going to go straight into the dirt as Kraus leads us. Running it wide was Kraus in the 2, and Applegren will take the lead in the 95. So the American for Vusion Racing takes the lead, and Moftah, the Egyptian, in 3rd for the Grid Kings. 4th is Simpson, 5th is Kingsbury. As now, remember, no jokers on the first lap of the race. The joker is not going straight here. Remember, we take the left, we take the right. We used to go straight to that path in the foreground. That is no more. You'll see them run the asphalt turn 1. Jeff Applegren holds the lead in car number 95. As Kraus looks like he cut the track in the 2, will have to give up the spot. Contact between them. Philip Kraus to the lead, but we'll suspect that the 2 will give the lead back to Applegren as we end the first lap of the race here in Texas. So Kraus gives the lead back. Applegren will joker at his first opportunity, so we'll notice the American pulling out to a lead over the Canadian. Looks like Chad Simpson got by Marwan Moftah, along with Matt Kingsbury struggling the 21. He's had car issues all evening long, and he was unable to make practice. He runs it wide and into the wall. It looked like in the background went Kingsbury, you noticed there, and it looks like he parks the car. So Applegren holds this lead in the 95 over car number 2, Philip Kraus. Championship leader holding the red plate, Connor Parise. You'll notice on our new graphics we're experimenting with this week colored number plates. So the red plate for the championship leader, at least for the moment, kind of irrelevant. As we crossed halfway for Jeff Applegren in car number 95, Kraus has not jokered yet, but we expect that Kraus is going to be faster than Applegren, as the MRT boys have experience over the Vusion Racing cars. Simpson jokers in the 24, and he nearly makes contact with Kraus. So the Canadian gets by the American. The Last Lap Motorsports car struggling. Hasn't made a final all season long. Granted, we're only 2 weeks in. Into the backstretch chicane. Very tricky to get this corner right. Appelgren pulling away. About 2 seconds, as our deltas are a little bit weird when we run through the dirt, but we'll see when we get back to the asphalt what the gap is between the Vusion Racing car and the MRT cars. We come to cross flags here in Fort Worth. When will Kraus joker is the real question as we begin halfway in Texas. Kraus does not joker. Gap was about 3 seconds if we looked at the delta correctly, but it could be wrong. As Appelgren holds the lead. Third, Simpson. Fourth, Mofta, and Kingsbury off the track in the pit lane, you'll notice, in car number 21. That's the gap. That's the whole field. As we are halfway in heat number 1 here in Texas. And Appelgren trying to win his heat race. He did not win in Sonoma. He got beat by his teammate. And back out onto the dirt. As I stand corrected, he did win his heat race in Sonoma. 2 to go for Jeff Appelgren. Kraus has not jokered yet, but he's on top of car number 95, so I don't think there's going to be any competition for this heat win. As we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe Kraus makes a mistake. Maybe Appelgren pulls something out of the hat. Through the bus stop. Into the dirt once again. Kraus v. Appelgren. Very slow chicane. That backstretch chicane, basically a 90 left, 90 right, and you have to cut the grass just right without cutting the track in order to get a good run. Looks like Kraus cut the corner there a little bit, but it doesn't really matter because when we take the white flag for Jeff Appelgren, Kraus still has to joker. The Canadian takes to the joker, passes Appelgren, and that's going to rotate the Canadian back to the lead. And it looks like 51-4 to a 51-2. Appelgren just didn't have the pace at the beginning of the race to hold that lead. He'll still get a bonus point if he can hold on to second, but there's also no guarantee that that's going to happen. But Philip Kraus, fastest man in qualifying, fastest man going off the results from last season here. And he certainly wants to make a name for himself as being the only guy to win in Texas. He still has the final to go, but Kraus wins Heat 1 in Fort Worth. Second is Appelgren. Third is Mofta. Actually, it looks like there was a penalty for Appelgren in the chicane that puts him back to fourth, and Mofta through to the final. So what an action-packed first heat in Texas, as confirmation that Jeff Appelgren looks like he ran it wide and in that final corner, and the officials don't take it lightly. And it looks like he's going to be shoved back to the LCQ, so that gives Mofta the transfer spot in the 191. So Mertz, third in points coming in, second fastest in seating. He will grid up alongside Ray Kingsbury. Third is Joe Naughton. Fourth is Jacob Kraus. As we roll off for the second heat race, second fastest in seating, Mertz in car number 1. Then it is Ray Kingsbury in car number 25. Joe Naughton, the second Vusion Racing car, and Jacob Kraus in the only non-Subaru car to make the trek to Fort Worth, Texas. As confirmation from race control, due to running wide in the final corner, Appelgren gets shoved from second to fourth in the heat race results, puts him back to the LCQ. He had a flawless race until then, but race control certainly does not like overextending track limits, and especially coming to the checkered flag, ran it wide into the grass and take him out of it. as it was an MRT affair last season here between the two teammates. You sprinkled in Connor Parise there, so it's basically the same race. We do have Vusion Racing represented by Joe Naughton and Jeff Applegren. As, once again, a very strange way to start the heat race if you're just joining us here in Texas. The first ever rolling start for NASA Rallycross due to safety concerns, given the fact that 4 cars crashed in the first corner of the final last season. Mertz is the control car. He will lead Kingsbury, Kraus, and Naughton to begin the race in Texas. Heat number 2 at the line. Green flag off the line. Kingsbury gets a good jump over Mertz as we begin the first lap in Texas. Mertz leads us out of turn number 1. Little graphics hiccup there. Sorry about that. Naughton battling with Kingsbury. Kraus struggling in the 42. As Mertz all over the track in car number 1. Can he hang onto it? He's trying to. He looks like he does. I'm not sure what just happened in the cockpit of car number 1, but it certainly did not look good. From high above. Kingsbury second. Mertz got a much better run than the American through the chicane and into the dirt for the first time. Not to the inside. The Irishman on the American. Side by side. Exiting the dirt to the right, left. Contacting. Kingsbury gets shoved out wide. Naughton gets through to second. And coming to end this, it looks like Naughton tipped the spot back. Mertz will lead at the end of the first lap. So this is what the German loves, being ahead of everybody else with clear track. To the inside of Naughton goes Kingsbury goes Naughton. Getting my words mixed up in the commentary box. Through the dirt, Jacob Kraus struggling in the 42, off the track. So realistically, this is the transfer spot battle between Kingsbury and Naughton. Through the bus stop. Looks like Mertz ran it wide. Heard a little bit of brake lock up on car number 1, but certainly he's loving this away from the rest of the field. Kingsbury was super quick in qualifying. Super quick practice, rather. Couldn't translate it into qualifying once the track rubbered up, but certainly the man from Connecticut's looking good to transfer through the final as we begin lap number 3. Naughton looks like he nearly hits Kingsbury as Kingsbury entered the Joker. We'll have to look. Where is Mertz versus Kingsbury from high above? Kingsbury takes the lead over Mertz. 25-1 the running order for the top 2. But what Kingsbury has to do now is make sure he can hold the lead over car number 1 when the 1 has to Joker. But Kingsbury doesn't have any delta, it looks like, from high above. As the left-right chicane, that backstretch chicane. Remember where the cone is there in the center of your shot? That used to be the Joker. They put that tire barrier there for whatever horrible reason. That was certainly removed for this season as we changed the Joker path, and I believe the drivers liked that much better. Halfway home in Fort Worth in the second heat race. And Kingsbury holds the lead over Mertz. Mertz Jokers in the 1. Where is Kingsbury? We saw Kingsbury, but there's going to be no contest between the two. Back to the lead goes the defending champion. 38 race wins and 6 championships. But he hasn't been able to seal the deal this season. And he's been saying that this is his best shot. They knew Parise was not going to be here all week as Connor Parise prior commitments. Missing a couple other drivers as well. Jacob Harberts, Nick Dawson all had prior commitments for the round of Texas. But even given that fact, we've had crazier races with 6 cars when we had the minimum last season here, and especially in the Generation 3 regulations. 2 to go for Mertz. Strategy's out the window. It's all going to be down to who can drive faster. 46.9 to a 52.9. It's a 6-second gap for the Delta, and Naughton's going to pip Kingsbury. So Naughton jokered in the 9, so the Irishman in the transfer spot. He was running his own little quiet race as we focused on Kingsbury, and that's how he's going to benefit from here. Looks like he cut a little bit in the 9. Track limits certainly lax for the round of Texas. But it's going to be down if Kingsbury's going to make this dive on Naughton in the final corner, I would suppose. Mertz takes the white flag in car number 1. 1 lap to go in the heat race. There's no jokers. Kingsbury to the inside of Naughton. Can he make the spot? They're going to be side by side through turn 1. Very tricky corner to get right. The never-ending exit of turn 1 into the second and third corner chicane. Kingsbury much quicker than Naughton as he's going to slide it in the 25. He might have to give up some time. I believe that might have sealed it, but we'll have to wait for Kingsbury into the final chicane. I think that's probably going to seal it for him as a terrible run through the chicane for Ray Kingsbury. Off of the dirt and through the final chicane. It's going to be an MRT sweep for the first time this season. Mertz wins Heat 2, followed by Naughton, who transfers as Kingsbury and Kraus to the LCQ. LCQ time in Fort Worth. All 3 Last Lap Motorsports cars are going to be in this race, along with Jeff Appelgren and Jacob Kraus. This is going to be interesting because one of these fast guys are going to have to go home. We only have 6 cars in this final today. And Appelgren, after running it wide in the final corner, felt that he should have been in the final, but given the regulations, put in the LCQ, so I'm not sure what's going to happen to the American. Ray Kingsbury certainly had a great battle with Appelgren's teammate Joe Naughton a couple moments ago, but Kingsbury on the losing end of that battle as well. And Chad Simpson and Matt Kingsbury. Matt Kingsbury, remember, had the issues that just got him to the circuit, just got him in the car, and then he ran it into the wall, exiting turn number 1. Top 2 transfer out of the LCQ, like always in NASA Rallycross. 4 laps, and you have to take that joker, that asphalt in turn 1, just once, and there's no jokers in the first lap of the race. Friendly reminder. It's going to be interesting if Appelgren's going to push the issue. Getting ready to start the 4-lap LCQ here in Fort Worth, Texas. Off the final chicane. Simpson, the control car. Getting ready in Fort Worth. Green flag off the line. Kingsbury gets a better start than his teammate. Appelgren bump drafting Simpson, and Matt Kingsbury to the inside of Appelgren, 3 wide. With those 3 into turn number 1. Kingsbury hits his teammate Simpson, as Simpson battling with Ray, exiting the dirt for the first time. From high above, it's going to be Kingsbury, Simpson. Kraus misses the tire barrier, nearly hits Appelgren, as Simpson holds the lead in car number 24. Now, Appelgren had a terrible start, found himself 3 wide in the middle of Kingsbury, Matt Kingsbury, and Kraus, as the last lap cars all nearly come together. Jacob Kraus runs it wide in the 42, and Appelgren to the inside of Matt Kingsbury. Trying the inside of Chad Simpson. Looks like he cuts the track a little bit, has to give up some time. Ray Kingsbury holds the lead. Contact with Matt Kingsbury and Jeff Appelgren, as the race in Texas is always frantic, as we are coming to 3 to go. The first joker is allowed as Ray Kingsbury nearly off-roads it onto the grass, just like his brother nearly did. Who jokers? Kingsbury does. Ray Kingsbury, that is. Nobody else does. Matt Kingsbury to the inside of Appelgren, nearly makes contact with him. This frantic LCQ, absolutely amazing. You'll notice the delta when they get back to the asphalt. It's about 8-9 seconds between Kingsbury and Simpson. And that's the gap that you need to get in order to take the fight. Simpson holds second. Appelgren third. Matt Kingsbury nearly clobbered the 95 as he ran it wide in the 21. Struggling all day long is Matt Kingsbury. His brother having no such issues. Ray Kingsbury holds the lead as we come to halfway home in the last chance qualifier. As Chad Simpson holds second. This is going to be absolutely fascinating to see when Appelgren jokers. As Appelgren does not joker, Simpson does. So Simpson takes to the Joker in the 24. From high above, the teammates are battling one another. This is going to give Applegren the clear track that he potentially needs, and not a potentially, that he does need to potentially take the transfer spot. And I don't know if these guys are going to be battling as hard as they should be as teammates, as the last lap cars certainly have come a long way since their days as Ford. Granted, it was only 3 races ago, but the Subaru program treating that team much nicer. White flag for Ray Kingsbury in car number 25 in the LCQ. His teammate Chad Simpson holds the transfer spot in the 24. We're going to look from high above for Jeff Applegren in the 95. The American for Vusion Racing had the issue in the heat race. He takes to the Joker. Will he come out behind Simpson? He comes out behind Simpson. Applegren's going to have to pull something out of the hat in order to take this LCQ transfer. Kingsbury through the final chicane. Along with Simpson, Applegren's there. This is going to be absolutely fascinating to take the LCQ transfer. To the inside goes Applegren on Simpson. Will he take the spot? He will! Simpson hit the wall, and he hits the guardrail again. What a move by Jeff Applegren. And into the final chicane, Ray Kingsbury wins the LCQ, and Applegren transfers in the 95. Best of the rest is Chad Simpson, Matt Kingsbury, and Jacob Kraus. What a race in Texas. As we roll for the final, Philip Kraus on pole position in car number 2. Then it is Josh Mertz, car number 1. Second row of the grid, Marwan Moftah and Joe Naughton. Then Ray Kingsbury, Jeff Applegren. All 6 Subarus in this race, so Subaru's guaranteed to make it 3 in a row. Like I said, we had a couple of people unable to show for today's race. Nick Dawson, Chris Wetz, Connor Parise, Andrew Mickey. In total, I believe we had 15 entries. Only 9 participated, but that is still okay. Next week, we head to Daytona, back to the traditional rallycross tracks. So it'll be interesting to see if the MRT teammates can keep the momentum up, or will the Vusion cars be back on top. Haven't seen the other Grid Kings cars yet this season. I don't know if Anze Urbancic, Kevin Carlisle, I don't know if they are going to return to the NASA Rallycross Challenge. Hopefully they will. We certainly loved having 17 cars in Sonoma. It's nothing to be discouraged about that we only have 6 cars in this final, because to our new viewers of the NASA Rallycross Challenge, for 5 years we only had 8 cars running a single race. But we typically have the greatest races you will ever see with only 6 cars. It's a weird way to run the Texas Grand Prix, but a rolling start with the MRT boys on a front row lockout, getting ready for round number 3 of the NASA Rallycross Challenge in 2018A. Glad you can join us on the Automotive Sports Network. Lights out, and away we go in Texas, side by side. It's going to be Kraus and Mertz down to turn number 1 as the MRT teammates lead us into the first corner. Moftah to the inside of Mertz, nearly makes contact with him. Naughton jacks the rear end of car number 1 way up into the air, and it shoves the German back to 3rd. Exiting the dirt for the first time, it's going to be Philip Kraus, Marwan Moftah, Mertz, Naughton, Kingsbury, and Applegren. Into the bus stop for the first time. Single file through the asphalt and onto the dirt once again. Philip Kraus locking up the rear brakes. Moftah closing on the Canadian. To the inside goes the Egyptian. And will Marwan Moftah be able to take that spot? He goes to the inside and slams into car number 2 and shoves him wide. Mertz gets into him as well. And from high above, the MRT teammates back to the first and second positions. Moftah looks like he cut the track in the 191. And ending the first lap of the race, it's going to be Philip Kraus leading by a huge margin over his teammate. As Moftah hits Mertz, who has to Joker, Naughton sneaked to the inside there between his teammate and Moftah as Applegren followed Mertz into the Joker. As Kraus did not Joker, this puts Mertz to the lead. Second place is Applegren, 3rd is Kraus, 4th Naughton. 5th is Moftah, and 6th Kingsbury. And now Mertz is going to have to push like there's no tomorrow, because we know the MRT boys are faster than the rest of the field. Where have we seen that before? Where have we heard that before? As Mertz, Appelgren, and Kraus. Kraus is closing. He's the fastest car here. There is no denying that Philip Kraus is the fastest man on the circuit as we end the second lap of the race. Remember, we do have a telemetry issue. Once again, unfortunately, we are only running to the end of lap number 10. We had fuel constraints due to these cars only until the end of lap number 10. Bus stop chicane for Mertz. It looks like Kraus jokered in car number 2. So he got by Appelgren in the 95. So now with Appelgren out of the picture, it's going to be the MRT boys battling. As there's Naughton. Naughton got by his teammate. So the Vujan cars 3rd and 4th. 5th is Moftaw. 6th is Kingsbury. Mertz leads over Kraus as the MRT teammates pulling away. Mertz's strategy's done. Kraus has a joker left, and I don't think Mertz realizes this. So Philip Kraus basically just has to claw up to the back of his teammate's back bumper, and he can sneak this one away. As the last lap, 45.5 to Mertz, a 46.7, and they ran the same lap last lap. It was a second difference. Look how much smoother Philip Kraus is on the brakes over his teammate. There is no contest between these guys. As that dirt corner, very tricky to get right, especially braking on the dirt. Naughton, Appelgren, Kingsbury, and Moftaw back to the front of the field. Mertz runs it wide in car number 1, pushing like there's no tomorrow as we begin lap number 5. I think Kraus is waiting it out to take the joker, but he's certainly close to his teammate. As jokering, it looked like was Moftaw in the 191. He did not, or he did, excuse me, he did. Unless timing and scoring not playing nice with me, it's not. He did not joker, I apologize there. As he is currently in the 6th position. It's Naughton, Appelgren, Kingsbury, Moftaw. That is the running order at the back of the field. Kraus pushing hard. Let's go on board car number 2 and take a look at this circuit. We cross halfway here in Texas. Mertz still holds the lead. As it looks like Kraus, as I say that, has taken the joker. And Kraus, look at the gap he has over his teammate. As I stand corrected, remember we're only running a lap number 10. We're coming to 3 to go in Fort Worth. And Philip Kraus has jokered in the 2 and taken the lead from his teammate. As the Vujan cars battling for the 3rd spot on the podium, it's Naughton over Appelgren over Kingsbury, as Moftaw struggling in the 191, but I don't believe he's jokered yet. And to the inside goes Appelgren on Naughton, but he couldn't make the spot. As both of them battling hard. Looks like Naughton runs it wide, cuts the track a little bit. Kingsbury to the inside of Appelgren in the 25 on the 95. As they take 3 laps to go. Kingsbury late on the brakes, locking him up. Through the dirt. This is the battle that we're focusing on for the 3rd spot on the podium. This is going to be absolutely fascinating to see who will take this spot, because I think we've settled that Kraus is holding off his teammate. I think that's a done deal, because I don't think Mertz has the pace, and he certainly doesn't have any jokers left to take this spot over his teammate. But Naughton and Applegren and Kingsbury battling for the third spot on the rostrum. Off of the dirt as we take 2 to go for Philip Kraus. Naughton holds third. Fourth is Applegren. Fifth, Kingsbury. Sixth, Mofta. As to the inside goes Kingsbury. He looked. He couldn't make anything happen. In this battle, running extremely hard. And Mofta looks like he jokers and gets ahead of everybody else. So we recognize when Mofta was in the back of the field, he did not joker. Until now. Mert struggling in the 1. Kraus in car number 2. Certainly putting on a champion's drive for the double champion. White flag. For Kraus in car number 2. Mertz came up short. He's still got a lap left. But I don't think it's going to happen. Mofta third. Naughton looks like he runs it wide and into the tires, along with Applegren. I'm not sure what just happened, but it looks like Naughton's car dead in the water. Through the chicane. Kraus, Mertz, Mofta, your podium. And through the dirt for the final time and back out onto the asphalt. Philip Kraus has taken the opportunity when he could to be the fastest man all weekend, and he sweeps it in Texas. Kraus, 2 in a row in Fort Worth. Mertz second. Third will be Marwan Mofta. Tentatively, it's going to be Kingsbury and then Applegren, as sixth is Naughton. 7th, Simpson. 8th, Matt Kingsbury. And 9th, Jacob Kraus. As what a race here in Fort Worth, as a very unique layout and a very unique race. As we hope you enjoyed today's coverage of NASA Rallycross here on the Automotive Sports Network. And we hope to see you next week as we return back to the regular Rallycross tracks in Daytona. Congratulations to Philip Kraus, and we hope to see you next week. But until then, so long, everyone.